Today's faction focus is on the Imperial Agents, and I think this is gonna be a shorter one. GW notes that the Imperial Agents aren't being treated as a faction in their own right. They're just sharing how they work in this faction focus series. And I'll state my bias here. I've got very mixed feelings on Imperial Agents. And I say this as someone who has a small band of assassins and inquisitor, though note that my distaste does not relate to casual, thematic, or more narratively oriented play. The fact is, Imperial Agents represent a very unique and very 40k element of the setting. Plus, the models are dope. But as they relate to serious, hardcore, matched play, I find they just muddy the water, creating an awkward disparity for the Imperium-aligned armies. As the article itself states, they can be used to shore up weaknesses for them, so Imperium players have an extra layer of accessible tools to shore up their weaknesses. Huh. Sucks for everyone else, I guess. Well, let's take a look. As I mentioned, the Imperial Agents aren't a faction in the same sense as the others we've seen. Their army rule presented is a structural one, which defines how many retinue and character agents of the Imperium units you can include in your Imperium army. 1 of each for incursion, 2 for strike force, and 3 for onslaught. It also notes that any of the assassins cannot be your warlord. First up, we can see the Vindicare Assassin. His stat line is more or less the same, but has dropped down a wound and an attack, and he's kept that 4-up invulnerable save. His ranged weapons, though, have been tuned up quite a bit. The pistol is now 3 shots at strength 5 AP 2 dealing 3 damage, and the Exodus rifle remains a 1-shot attack at strength 7 AP 3 dealing D3 plus 3 damage. And both his weapons have devastating wounds, which makes his critical wounds deal those attacks damage as mortal wounds. It makes him quite frightening. His abilities increase this further. Infiltrators means he can forward deploy. Lone Operative gives him much more freedom, preventing him from being targeted while outside of 12 inches with ranged weapons, and Stealth gives him a -1 to hit from ranged attacks, which certainly helps in a sniper versus sniper battle. And if he wasn't deadly enough, his unique ability Dead Shot allows him to add 3 to the damage of his ranged attacks if he scores a critical hit. And a unit hit by Dead Shot must take a Battle Shock test, which certainly adds more potency and narrative flair. And in case that still wasn't deadly enough, Shield Breaker gives him a once per battle bonus activated when selecting a target for his Exodus rifle, which denies the enemies from making any type of saving throw. And while he's more potent and flexible than ever, I'm not all that excited, as he still has one major glaring feels bad rules interaction. I've played enough games with and against Vindicare Assassins to have experienced how dumb it feels to bring this dude and have him fail to hit. This elite assassin, the sniper specialist, whose one job it is to shoot at key targets, will fail to do that job 1/6 of the time. And we all know how dice can be. There will be battles where, due to that 1 in 6th probability, the Vindicare will repeatedly miss. Pray to the Emperor it isn't when you activate his Shield Breaker rule. My point is, his rules are such that it creates room for narratively dissonant interactions on the tabletop. And before people say, "What, you just want him to auto-hit?" No, I'd rather just have the Vindicare have an ability to reduce his fail rate to less than 1 in 6. Such as a rule where if he remains stationary, you roll an extra dice to hit and choose 1. In summary, rather than designing his rules so he is as accurate as most high-skilled units, and giving lots of room for his damage to pop off and become mortal wounds on crits, I think a better rules philosophy would be to have the Vindicare be an unparalleled, deadly accurate sniper. That in itself should be what makes him threatening, not the fact he is as skilled as any BS2 model, but has weapons and abilities that really reward you for rolling crits. But I digress. We then gotta look at a generic Inquisitor. The article notes that Inquisitors are able to lead any Imperium battle line unit. The most unique thing I spot is the built-in Psychic Shockwave 18-inch Flamer, and while Strength 3 is rather low, devastating wounds and 2d6 shots leaves quite a bit of room for value. On the ability front, Authority of the Inquisition returns to enable the entering of any transports the Inquisitor's bodyguard unit could enter, and Power of the Rosette enables you to gain a command point on a 3+ when you use a stratagem targeting the Inquisitor's unit. With regards to war gear options, they include Blessed Wardings, which gives the Inquisitor's unit a 5-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds, which can certainly come in handy, and Psychic Gifts, which gives the Inquisitor the Psyker keyword. It's that war gear option, which I presume would also unlock the Psychic Shockwave attack. And we see the basic Inquisitor has a 5-up invulnerable save for being a character of importance. Next we have Imperial Navy Breachers, and what can I say? They still have that better than Guardsman save, but they do have worse leadership, providing something of a trade-off. Their demo charge is sitting in line with that of the Genestealer cults shown yesterday, but interestingly, the Navy Breacher's demo charges are hazardous, suggesting a level of proficiency possessed by the Reductus Saboteur which is quite tasteful. However, it's their abilities which are more intriguing. Breaching Team gives them reroll 1s to wound each time they make an attack, and if the target is within range of an objective marker, you get full rerolls. Huh, that's weird. It reminds me of something. Oh, right! Rejoice, Chaos Space Marine players, in knowing that being a Breacher Team would have served you better than being a veteran of the Long War. Anyways, Endurance Shield gives the single model bearing it a 4-up invulnerable save, and Grenade Belts gives the bearer the smoke keyword, and each time you select the bearer's unit for the grenade stratagem, you can roll an extra d6. So in essence, it opens them up for the smokescreen stratagem, which can provide the unit the benefits of cover and stealth, and helps you get more mortal wounds out of the grenade stratagem. And lastly, we got Inquisitor Greyfax, and she's looking pretty good. She's got a better armor save than the standard Inquisitor, and an extremely high leadership. I mean, even better than Guilliman. Her ranged weapons both have precision and devastating wounds. Castigation is her 18-inch one-attack Witchfire power, which hits on 3s and always wounds characters on 4s, which then deals that 3 damage as mortal wounds due to its interaction with devastating wounds. And her Condemnor Stake is effectively a 24-inch bolt gun with anti-psyker 2+. Like the standard Inquisitor, Greyfax has Authority of the Inquisition, but her Psi Oculum ability gives the unit she's leading anti-psyker 4+ to their ranged weapons. And her third ability, No Escape, forces desperate escape tests onto enemy units who fall back from her unit, and if they're already battle-shocked, they must subtract a further 1 from the roll. Well, that's it for this one. Imperial Agents aren't really a faction, so it doesn't feel suitable to give this one a score. Though I would have liked to have seen how my favorite Alchemist Assassin shaped out in this new psychic paradigm. But I'm curious to hear what you thought on this not exactly faction focus.